On a Sunday evening, when the sky outside our window glowed with a faint golden-orange hue and the world seemed to slip slowly into a quiet calm, my phone buzzed sharply on the wooden table beside the sofa. I wasn't expecting any call at that hour. Sunday evenings at our home were sacred, reserved for lazy conversations, half-finished movies, and the comfort of knowing that for a few more hours, life would not demand anything from us. But the moment the ringtone sliced through the silence, something inside me tightened. It wasn't just a call, it felt like an interruption that carried weight. I looked toward my spouse, who was sitting at the far end of the sofa, legs tucked beneath them, scrolling casually on their tablet. They didn't notice the shift in my breathing, but I did. I picked up the phone, and the name flashing on the screen made my throat run dry. An old friend, someone who never called without a reason. Why would they call now? I murmured, more to myself than to anyone else, but my spouse heard the strain in my voice. They looked up just as I placed my thumb on the green icon and lifted the phone to my ear. "Hello," the voice on the other end cracked, trembling with an urgency that made my pulse hammer inside my chest. They said something, half words, half breaths, but the only part one caught clearly was my name and the word, emergency. I felt the blood drain from my face. My spouse immediately straightened, eyes narrowing with worry, and I could feel their gaze on me as I strained to make sense of the broken voice spilling into my ear. "Wait, slow down," I said, my tone sharper than I intended. "What happened?" For a second, the call went silent except for a shaky exhale. Then came the sentence that made my fingertips go numb. "It's about Raghav, he's missing." I froze. The room seemed to tilt. Raghav, my childhood friend, my brother in all but name, the one who always laughed louder, loved harder, and lived like he had an eternity to spare, missing. The word didn't fit him. It felt wrong, impossible. Missing. How? When? My voice cracked. On the other side, my friend continued, words tumbling out in panic. He hadn't returned home since morning, his phone was switched off, and the only clue was a voice message he left hours ago, one they didn't understand but feared. I listened, fingers shaking, heart pounding with a rhythm too fast to be safe. When the call ended, I lowered the phone slowly, staring at the darkened screen as if it could offer answers. My spouse leaned forward. "What happened?" I looked at them, unable to shape the chaos inside me into sentences. For a moment, I only stared, the world blurring around the edges. Then finally, I whispered the words that felt heavy as stones, "Raghav is missing." Their lips parted in shock, but even before they could respond, another wave of dread washed over me, cold and suffocating, because something about the call felt wrong. Not just the message, the voice, the pauses, the background noise, like someone was breathing too close to the speaker. My spouse reached for my hand. "Tell me everything." And so I did. I repeated every detail, every tremble in the caller's voice, every strange hesitation. The more I spoke, the more uneasy I felt. My spouse listened with a seriousness that sharpened their features, and when I finished, they didn't speak for a long moment. Finally, they asked, "Do you think he's really missing?" I wanted to say no. I wanted to say this was a misunderstanding or some stupid prank. But deep down, something ancient and instinctive whispered that this wasn't just a disappearance. This was the beginning of something darker, something that had been waiting beneath the surface for years. "I don't know," I admitted. "But I have to find him." Even as I said it, the weight of what lay ahead pressed against my chest. I knew searching wouldn't be simple. Raghav wasn't the type to vanish without a trace. If he was gone, there was a reason. And the last time he spoke to me, 2 weeks ago, he had hinted at something strange, something he claimed he would explain when we met. At the time, I brushed it off as his usual dramatic flair. Now, I wondered if I had ignored the one warning that could have changed everything. My spouse squeezed my hand. "Then we'll find him together." Their voice was steady, grounding, pulling me back from the rising panic. I nodded, grateful beyond words. But even as comfort wrapped gently around me, one thought echoed louder than any reassurance. If Raghav had truly been in danger, why hadn't he called me? Why contact someone else? Unless he couldn't. The possibility clawed at my mind. I stood up abruptly. "I need to hear that voice message," I said, my voice firmer than before. My spouse nodded and rose too. "Then let's go." As we stepped toward the door, a strange chill ran down my spine, not from fear, but from the unmistakable sense that someone, somewhere, already knew I was coming. And they were waiting.